Hello. Uh, so I just did a video for chapter number 3. I'm gonna go ahead and do chapter number 4 because it's not very long and I've missed several days. So I have not read this chapter. Now the previous 3 chapters I had already read. And then when I got to chapter 4, I had the idea to make these videos. Yes, it's taking up quite a bit of my time to do these that I normally would be doing other things such as reading other books or watching TV or doing dishes or I don't know, drawing a picture, whatever. But I'd rather be doing this to help everybody else because everybody loves audiobooks. Or in my opinion, I think everybody should love audiobooks. And hopefully this makes it easier on other people. So, let me get a drink here. This is the picture for this chapter. I believe that would be Mr. Steve and his son Nathan walking into the woods to go hunting. Let's see. I'm sorry. This chapter, chapter 4, is titled The Doing of This Thing. I'm sorry, my brain had a stutter there for a moment. The following letter appears in a book by my wife, Annie, and me, titled Married Lovers, Married Friends. Bethany House Publishers, Minneapolis, Montana. From a father in Michigan, the letter reads, During your concert, I determined to spend the next day, Saturday, with my children, ages 6, 3, and 1.5. My cat's over here knocking things off the counter. I was up building block houses much earlier than I expected, and by 10 a.m., we were still going strong. My 18-month-old son was about to knock down my 6-year-old son's castle. Instead of shutting him out of the fun behind a gate, I swooped up my 18-month-old and twirled him around the room. It was at that moment my wife walked in and informed me that my son, who was sitting on my head, had a load in his pants that was dripping into my hair. My nose said, she's not lying. So I passed him to my wife, jumped in the shower, turned on the water, and found only cold water due to my wife's doing loads of laundry that morning. As I stood there freezing, I wondered, is this the family fun you spoke about the night before? This letter goes to prove that spending time with your children has its risks. Yet that father is to be commended for his fine effort. I am confident that his children will not forget the fun. His barber won't either. It's true, there may be painful results from being close to the kids. Every time I look in a mirror, I see the scar on my face from the 5-iron golf club I let my daughter swing years ago. Yet believe me, the bond that results far outweighs all the risks involved. There are as many ways to spend valuable time with children as there are children to spend time with. The possibilities are endless, from bicycle rides to building a dollhouse together, from going to a concert to stopping by the yogurt shop, or simply taking them with you to the hardware store. For some of us, taking a kid to the woods is a great way to build the parent-child relationship. I had been doing just that with my son Nathan. He had accompanied me during the late fall and early winter gun seasons, but I remember the day I discovered an item that could broaden the time frame that we could hunt together. I stopped by a local pawn shop to see if they might have a good used climbing tree stand that some frustrated hunter might have traded in for an item less treacherous. As I looked around, I spotted a nice compound bow that looked quite new. It was a late model bow, and it seemed to be the perfect thing I could use to entice my son into joining me in archery season. The bargain price made it irresistible, so I bought it and took it home. I equipped it with a used set of sight pins, a new peep sight, silencers, and a hand-me-down release. Nathan's interest in the art of archery quickly grew. He spent a lot of time practicing and soon became rather proficient. His groupings at the target were impressive. As bow season drew near, I detected a reservation in Nathan to hunt so early in the year. After some probing, I discovered why he preferred entering the woods on colder days. His hesitancy about going on a late September bow hunt was largely due to his serious hatred of spiders. I tell this with his permission. Here in Tennessee, any hunter who hunts early in the season must brave horrible encounters with webs large enough to catch bull elk. I share my son's disdain for these creatures. There have been times when I would be scouting in late summer for a place to put a stand, get onto a good deer trail, put my eyes to the ground, and unknowingly walk into one of these traps. If someone were standing by with a video camera, they would get remarkable footage that would ensure them an appearance on America's Funniest Home Videos. The very second I feel a web wrap around me, chills reading this. I hate spiders. I start my spider dance. Oh yeah, I got a good spider dance. Sort of a jig. I whip off my hat, flap my arms vigorously, and mutter unintelligible words. I'm sure I look like someone involved in some sort of tribal dance. So I did understand Nathan's resistance to venture into the woods during archery season. He would rather wait until after a frost or two. However, the anticipation of getting his first deer with bow and arrow proved too much for a born hunter to pass up. The night before the September 30th hunt, I talked him into going with me by assuring him I would bravely lead the way to his stand and clear the path of any spiderwebs. The next morning, greeting us with a cool 65-degree temperature, hoping that all the spiders were hiding from the chill, I cut our way through to the ladder stand I had set up over two converging deer trails. I gave Nathan last-minute instructions to wait in the stand until I came back to get him. If he had not seen anything after a few hours, perhaps my movement through the woods would drive a deer by him. I hurried to my stand in a race against daybreak. As I walked along at a brisk pace, I prayed that no spiders would drop down into his lap to encompass him in a disgusting web if he drifted off to sleep. I knew that if a close encounter occurred, our hunt would be over in a flash. The high decimal scream he would let out would scare everything away for miles around. I finally settled into my stand about daylight and began the wait. Around 8 a.m., a large doe came within range. I slowly pulled back, took careful aim, and let the arrow fly. I meant to hit the doe, but I honestly didn't see the tree I killed. I'm sorry, some of his jokes are hilarious. My husband's pretty funny in the same way. So that baby weighed in at around 2,000 pounds field dressed. I was devastated and embarrassed, even though no one was around to witness the errant shot. I thought my hunt was over, but at 8:30, two more deer came by. I took an aim and pushed the release button, sending the arrow on its way. I missed the deer, but I killed the earth. Yes, sir, I hit it dead center. It weighed in at 6,000 billion tons. That's a number. I thought about having it mounted, but I couldn't drag it home. That's funny. My husband, well, Steve's joke is hilarious, but my husband actually killed several wild boar last year, and he left one of them in the woods. I was very upset, but he left it in the woods because he could not drag it home. He could not drag it to his truck. It was too heavy. I couldn't believe it. 2 shots in 30 minutes, and all I had to show for it was a dead tree and a fatally wounded planet. I felt even worse when I realized I had used a 20-yard pin for a 15-yard shot. Plus, shaking like Barney Fife didn't help much either. I began to wonder how Nathan was doing with all the training I had given him. I had coached him as he spent several hours popping a 3D target and plugging a bag full of old rags. He took shots from every angle, and his accuracy was quite good, but in no way could I prepare him to deal with the kind of disappointment his dad was feeling that morning. I should have told him that it's easy to pick a spot on a 3D target because it doesn't move. However, when that target has real fur and looks right at you with those big brown eyes, you do well to remember to breathe. I shook my... Oh, my cat just scared the crap out of me. However, when that target has... Oh, God, lost my place. I shook my head and wondered if Nathan had the chance to blow it the way I had already done. I started feeling sorry for him. My 2 stray arrows hurt even worse because I had been trying for so long to fill an archery deer tag. It's tough to admit, but when I'm standing in a tree stand looking at a whitetail with its ears and tail perked up, it does strange things to my ability to concentrate. Consequently, the years had ticked away with no tangible results. I kept telling myself it was no big deal, but I wasn't listening. It was a painful morning. As I promised, I headed back towards Nathan's stand around 9 a.m. I didn't want to hurry through the woods. Instead, I wanted to move slowly enough to cause any deer that might move in front of me to do so in a walk and not a run. So I eased along as quietly as I could. I knew I was about 200 yards from Nathan when I came near a little rise. Suddenly, 2 deer that were bedded down stood up about 20 yards away. I was behind some brush with the wind in my face. The 2 deer stood there trying to figure out what I was. They each lowered their heads and quickly popped back up to see if I would move. Somehow I managed to remain motionless. On the outside. On the inside, however, I was quivering like jello on a jackhammer. Amazingly, they both took a few steps and simultaneously stepped back behind trees that concealed me from their eyes. I raised my bow and pulled back. As I came to full draw, the thought came to me. 3 shots in one morning? This can't be true. No pressure, now because no one would believe this anyway. The one on the left, a young buck, had moved into the clear and was looking down the hill. I let the arrow go and heard the thud that occurs when an arrow connects. By then my heart was pounding and I was breathing hard. I dropped my bow to my side and listened. I could hear the crashing, and I had a feeling Nathan did too. The deer bolted over the rise and out of sight. I waited 4 or 5 minutes, then walked over to the spot where my arrow had found its mark. I followed the trail of freshly disturbed ground for just a few yards and immediately found blood. I knew this was a day I would never forget. My first deer with a bow. I waited 10 more minutes before continuing, then found a serious blood trail. After a few more yards, I decided to turn around and head for the truck and let the deer lie down. I circled around way back to the pickup where I would leave my gear and then go get Nathan. When I got to the truck, I couldn't believe my eyes. What I saw was unbelievable. Nathan was standing over a huge doe he had arrowed around 8:15 a.m. It was his first bow hunt and his first full draw at a live deer. I had heard of these kinds of beginner stories, but only in far-off hunting grounds. But here was an actual tale waiting to be told. Nathan got even more excited when I told him I had a deer down, for he knew it was my first as well. We stood there on that warm September morning, basking in the glow of the turn of events. To make the memory even more special, when I later tracked my animal to its final resting place, I discovered that both deer had lain down about 10 yards apart. We must have told each other the story 20 times that day, and more, and each time we recall something new. I'm sure we'll tell it many more times, and with each rendition the deer will get bigger and the shot longer, and my 2 errant arrows will sink further into the leaves of forgetfulness. I'm glad I've been able to make these kinds of memories with Nathan. Our hunting experiences have provided some great father-son time. From the teaching of the safety rules of firing a weapon to the sound of the alarm clock that wakes us up on the first morning of season, we have gathered much to talk about. One of the best benefits of our time together is the door of conversation that is opened as a result of doing this thing. It has led to other subjects that are of greater importance than hunting. We've talked about girls, the Bible, politics, technology, girls, sports, aviation, girls, family, future. Oh, and did I mention girls? To name just a few subjects. It seems that most moms feel comfortable to simply sit and talk with a child. Moms don't have to be pounding nails or casting a spinnerbait or building a rocket to find at ease in conversation. As a result, they make great listeners. Many dads, however, like to do and talk. At least it's true for me. Maybe maybe you're that way too. Somehow the distraction of action creates an environment for men to communicate. But whatever it takes, dads need to talk to their kids. I once saw a quip that said, "A child needs his father's presence more than his presence." How true. In order to create those times of togetherness, hardly anything works better than a mutual involvement in a sport. There are times when a dad has to be willing to sacrifice his own enjoyment of an activity in order to build a young child's interest in it. I realized early in my experience as a father that, for example, if I wanted to be with my kids, I could take them fishing. But if I wanted to go fishing, I didn't take the kids. Fishing can be very risky with little ones. I advise you to keep a pair of needle nose pliers and a first aid kit in the tackle box. Because I started hunting with my son when he was very young and gave up a few shots of my own. Being in the woods in the pursuit of big game has grown into a wonderful way to be together for us now. But whether you're a Daniel Boone dad or a Daniel Webster dad, it's not too late for you to find something fun to do with your child. It's important to ask ourselves the question. Cat. Sorry, my cat. It's important to ask ourselves the question. What would keep me from planning a family camping trip, a bike ride with a son, a walk with a daughter, or a dinner and a decent movie with just the kids? What could possibly be more important than benefits of quality time with your children? My dad always said, people do what they want to do. As a pastor who always hoped for folks to want to be in church, he prayed that their want to would change. Psalms 37:4 is a familiar favorite passage that states, He will give you the desires of your heart. It's not just the object of the desire that God wishes to grant, but instead He wants to place an old desire with a new and replace an old desire with a new and improved one. When it comes to dealing with the conflict of interest that steals our presence from our children's lives, we should certainly sincerely pray and ask God to change our desires. Though the tug is strong to do that which we want to do, we must let a change in our lives, in our wants, we must let a change in our wants to take place. In our want to take place. Perhaps there is a dad like yourself who is wishing for a change of heart and determining even now to spend some needed time with his children. Please don't let anything rob your ambition. Go ahead and take the risk. It won't hurt too badly, I promise. Just keep in mind that during your time together, someone just might say the words, I love you. Man to man. You were 4 years old, but it wasn't too soon. First time we said, ladies, please step out of the room. Your mama and your sister seemed to understand. You and me had a talk, man to man. When they closed the door, we opened our hearts, had a serious talk about matchbox cars. It was a day I will never forget. We had a moment, and it's not over yet. Talking man to man, heart to heart. It's kept this father and son from drifting apart. And I know we'll always be close, no matter where we are, 'cause we've been man enough to talk, heart to heart. Sometimes we were kings, talking issues of the world. Sometimes just two fellows talking about girls. And those November nights we'd make our plans to great white hunters, talking man to man. Now it's come too quickly, it'll come too soon. Now it'll come too quickly, it'll come too soon. When again we're saying, ladies, please step out of the room. Your mama and your sister and your bride to be, they'll know the moments just for you and me. Talking man to man, heart to heart. It's kept this father and son from drifting apart. And I know we'll always be close, no matter where we are, 'cause we've been man enough to talk, heart to heart. And someday when the years go by and I come to see you, and what I find is a little boy who looks just like you and me, and he calls you Daddy, will you promise me that you'll talk man to man, heart to heart? It'll keep a father and a son from drifting apart. And I know you'll always be close no matter where you are, 'cause you'll be a man enough to talk heart to heart. A special thanks to the following families who have helped me make some great hunting memories with my son. The Bledsoes, the Williamsons, the Richies, the Zenners, the Stearns, the Goodmans, the Jans, the Pickards, the Thompsons, the Stoners, and the Petriches. Oh my gosh. He writes some gorgeous poetry about parenting, fatherhood. My next video, I'll read chapter number 5, called He's Comin' Daddy. I'm going to end this with a prayer. It's not planned, so it might be a bit choppy. Lord, you are a holy Father. Please look down upon us and bless us. If there is anyone who needs you tonight, please go to them. Please hold them in your arms and let them know that they will be okay. If there is anyone who is putting their desires and their wants in the wrong place, please help them to look where you need them to go. Father, please help my own family in finding ways to spend time with our children and strengthen them through you. Please keep us on the path to your glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Alright, y'all. I'll try to get around to reading another chapter. I wanted to mention that today is my daughter's 3rd birthday. We had a cute little party for her, a little baby shark party. Also, I just recently learned of a Christian Catholic evangelist holiday type thing. It's called Lent, and I've read all about it, and it starts tomorrow. It's 46 days, and it's 40 days before Easter Sunday, but it's actually 46 because the Catholics don't count Sundays as part of Lent. But I am myself going to participate in this. I am still, for Lent, you are supposed to give something up, and I'm still thinking. I will decide before tomorrow morning what I'm going to give up. I want it to be something that I love and can live without. That I don't want to live without, but I can live without it. And so, to teach me some humility. And I talked to my son about it. He's 5. He'll be 6 here soon. I talked to him about it because he's my little Christian boy. I love him so much. He's my little God baby. He loves the Lord. And that goofy boy, he said, I want to give something up. I want to do something. I said, okay, well, how about we give something up for 2 weeks during Lent? Lent. I said, that way it's for a week, maybe 2 weeks. That way it's easier on you. And since this is my first time doing it, we'll see how we'll do that. So we were thinking, I'm like, well, I don't want him to give up something serious, you know. So I was like, how about we give up candy? No, he's not going to do that. So how about we give up pizza? No, it's not going to do that. So I think that we've decided he's going to give up juice for 2 weeks, and he's going to only drink water and milk for 2 weeks. Um, Goofy Boy tried to get me to believe that he absolutely loves lima beans, and that's what he could give up for 2 weeks, but I'm not falling for that. I told him he doesn't have to participate because he is so young, but he wants to, so we'll see how that goes. This is my first time as well, so wish me luck, which I don't need luck. I have the Lord on my side, and he will help me. He helped me quit smoking. He helped me quit drinking Mountain Dew. I very rarely